Well, today I'm with my friend Spencer Shulem. He's the CEO and co-founder of BuildBetter.ai. And BuildBetter.ai is an AI-powered product assistant used by over 27,000 teams, in some cases helping product teams do in 2 minutes what would normally take them 2 weeks. So Spencer, it's good to have you. Well, let's first get into the pain points of product teams. I know that you've been a serial entrepreneur and a VP of product, so you know the pain points well. So describe those a bit.
Yeah, I mean, every company probably resonates a lot with similar pains. I think at different stages in your career and at different size companies, product people have very different problems. And I think the biggest distinction is always between like a B2C company and a B2B company. But I think what everyone resonates with is just how much time product people are spending on just kind of like operational BS. Just like things that they probably shouldn't be doing, things that they're definitely not paid to do, and things that do add value to the organization are enablement for them to do their job, but are ultimately they're spending, I think the estimate last time, it's like some survey, like 73% of their time on completely unrelated tasks to like their job description. So it's just going through feedback, it's talking to users, it's trying to get feedback from other sources like sales calls or customer success calls or support tickets or something like that. There's just so much operational stuff that product teams have to do in order to do the job that they're paid for, which is very different than other types of departments where oftentimes their job is talk to these customers, close the deal, or, push this marketing or whatever. Like there's a lot more direct like ROI to the job description. Whereas product people, it's more of like understand users and build the right things, which is not as straightforward and obvious.
So all of that is time consuming. When I watched your demo about the 2 minutes, what would normally take 2 weeks, it was about developing a persona and a PRD. So those things
Yeah.
your system can do in 2 minutes,
Yeah.
and just explain how that's possible.
I mean, AI is so good at some things, and then obviously some things it's not very good at still. But one of the things it's so good at is if you give it the right data and you ask the right questions and the right templates and the right use cases and the right workflows, it can do really magical stuff for teams. And so that's really what kind of we've built for product teams, which is we say, we know the data already exists at your company. We know it's in your support tickets, your sales calls, your customer success calls. We know it's all there, but we know that just uploading all of that to ChatGPT and asking it, write me a PRD or write me a user persona or what are the top customer issues, you're not going to get a good response. And even if you
Hmm.
do, you start asking it a question a week later and the answer is completely different. So it's just not a reliable source. It's not a usable source to get those types of outcomes and deliverables that product teams do. So what we do is we basically have integration pipelines to all this data pulling into Build Better. And then we process that with what we call signals. So we be able to pull out things like issues, problems, complaints, compliments, testimonials from marketing, anything like that. We pull
Hmm.
out things like severity. So based off of what the customer is saying, how severe is it? We pull out things like intent, like does this thing that the customer just said, might that impact things like churn or usability or accessibility to your product? And then we turn those, you can select all that data, you can filter through it, you can make one for each one of your products and services, but then you can select all that data and say, hey, who are these customers? Are these
Hmm.
customers we care about? Are these customers that we want to listen to? Are these customers that we feel like are actually driving the bulk of our revenue? So you can kind of segment this down, filter this down, and then you can say, okay, cool, these are the right customers. This is the right problem. This is the right thing. Now I want to generate a PRD or a scoping doc or a persona off of this. And we can do that within minutes. So you can go
Hmm.
from tens of thousands of pieces of data to segment it down to the right feedback, the right customers, the right specific thing. And then you can select that data to say, okay, I want some charts and graphs, or I want a PRD, or I want a scoping doc, or whatever it might be, or I want to just generate some tickets in Linear or Jira. So it's really kind of like focusing down that data and turning it into something usable. I like to say, like, we've done no magic. Like, the magic's already there. It's really just making this usable. It's making this accessible. And these workflows and these pipelines, if anyone has built anything in AI, the weekend projects are easy. Building this as a reliable, scalable solution for product teams is really hard. I mean, we've been working on this for years. We were literally one of the first GPT powered tools back in 2020. So, like, we've literally been working on this for years to get something usable, reliable, and scalable for these teams. But once you get that, once you segment it properly, once you get the right nugget, you can get just some incredible assets out of it.
So if people or if companies are not using Build Better, what is their life like compared to if they were using Build
Their,
Better?
their life is hell. I mean, what a a lot of people, a few years ago, people were mostly doing this manually. I think a lot of times people have now looked at, using ChatGPT or using something kind of off the shelf and saying, hey, I just copy and paste transcripts, or I just, export a CSV of feedback and I just upload that to something. And I think that works fine for a small subset of data. Like if you just have like 100 surveys or something like that, you're just trying to analyze it, and no one else needs to see it, and you don't really need to use this long term. I think you can get some pretty good results. But the second you start getting to the thousands, the second you start needing a tool that everyone in your team has access to, the second you start needing something that actually is reliable and scalable and kind of more usable, that's when people start really struggling. They're like, okay,
Mm,
cool. I got a ChatGPT to give me a PRD over this one transcript, but I have 100 transcripts. Like this is not something I can do by myself. And not only that, but like it's in my chat. It's not like accessible to the rest of the team. It's not usable by anyone else. So you start having these follow-on problems where you're like, oh, it felt like it was so easy. You got into the car, you turned on the car, but then you realize you have a 1,000-mile journey and your car only goes 100 miles. So it's a really kind of difficult process for people to kind of get to that next milestone. And that's where people have really struggled to find solutions. There's like these voice of customer dashboards and these
mm,
AI tools that have come out where they're like, we're just going to throw everything at AI and just start putting things on a chart and graph, and hopefully that's usable. And people find, oh, yeah, it was usable once. And then 3 months later, it's the same exact chart and graph. Nothing's changed, nothing updated. You want to take that burden off the user. You don't want to have
mm,
them figure something out. You don't want to have them get unreliable results or things that aren't accurate or things that aren't working reliably for their team. So a lot of times, yeah, people just kind of go from ChatGPT to just like struggling with ChatGPT. I mean, that's the
mm,
next step. But I think once they realize there should be a solution, there should be something that can solve this
mm,
problem, that's usually when
mm.
they come to us.
Cool. Well, I think I saw on your website that it's constantly pulling in internal and external data from all the sources. And I think I got this quote right. It says, all your internal and external data analyzed, summarized, and documented on your behalf. Turn
Yeah.
your product org into a retention, expansion, and conversion powerhouse.
Yeah.
So that's it,
It's
right?
Yeah, I think product has, and I talked about this right at the start, which is a lot of times people look at product and they say, what do you do? I don't need you. I
Mm,
have engineering that builds the product. I have marketing that markets the product. I have sales that sells the product. What do I need you for? But product really, if you look at kind of the outcomes and the deliverables, the things that product makes decisions on are probably the biggest impact on your
mm,
retention, on your conversion, on your expansion, on your usage of your product, like your engagement of your product. But it's not instant. You don't ship a product and all of a sudden your revenue goes up and to the right like you would with maybe a sales team or
mm,
something like that. It takes 3 to 6 months sometimes to see the impact of a product organization. You don't, if you fire your product person, you're not going to wake up tomorrow and be like, oh my God, the product's falling apart. Like if you fired an engineer or something like that. But you will feel that 6 months
mm,
from now. Your customers will feel that 6 months from now. Your revenue will feel that from 6 months from now. So we really want to encourage product teams to look at themselves as revenue driving departments. And we want the organization to understand that these people are making revenue driving decisions. And so we really are focused on, okay, how do we pull in not just what's happening externally, but also help the internal teams be aligned as well. So when we look at internal and external, we're recording your internal meetings as well as looking at your external data. We're
mm,
looking at your product stand-ups, your engineering syncs, so that we can have an understanding, or your internal Jira or Linear and stuff like that, so that we can have an understanding of saying, well, what's actually happening at this company? What impact are we really having? Are we aligned with our customers? Are we actually shipping the things that our customers want? Or are we just, here's all the top customer problems and here's our internal roadmap, and our internal roadmap looks very different than our customers' expectations of our roadmap? And so we really try to help people understand it's a holistic approach. You can't just say, okay, here's everything customers want. Okay, I'm done.
mm,
Like you have to understand, well, what's happening internally? Who's going to work on this? Why would this engineer work on this? Does this engineer know that they need to be working on this? I told the engineer to be working on this 3 weeks ago. Why aren't they working on it? So there's this kind of alignment problem that you get from your customers and from your internal stakeholders that we really help with. And the whole focus is just impact. We just want to prove that the product team is having an impact on your bottom line, on your internal, kind of everything from alignment to revenue. And I think that's been a huge success for us.
You mentioned customers, so I noticed on your website you've got some pretty big names. What's an ideal prospect for you? I know some of those companies were big, some were small, some were startups. So who's an ideal prospect for you?
We always just say like, do you feel the pain? Like if you feel the pain of everything I've just said, usually you're kind of in the right ICP. The ideal person is usually more than 20 employees, usually around 50 to 500 employees, and they're kind of in that range to be pretty successful and build better. If you're small, I think a zero person company, like if you're just a founder, I think you'd get a lot of value from being able to record your user research
Hmm.
and having that feedback being piped into build better. And our prices scale. I mean, we have plans that start at $8 a month all the way up to a few $1,000s a month. So it's a usage based product. So like we don't really have okay, if you're not willing to spend $24,000 a year, then you're not going to get any value from build better. But obviously the pain increases as your organization, as your product increases as well. So when you're at 50 employees, you're like, okay, this is probably something I need to add to my radar. This is getting pretty bad. When you're at 200 employees, you're either on the side of failure or you're kind of figuring
Hmm.
out that you need to get a tool yesterday for something like this. And that 28,000 teams, I mean, I think we're probably higher now, maybe even like 30, 35, but the organizations, this is used inside the entire company. So it's not really like, we don't go and sell to one product team inside of a massive company. We're going and selling to every product team inside that company. 80% of the organization uses Build Better in some capacity every week, with the customers that we sell to. So we have multiple product teams for every single one of these companies, multiple workspaces, multiple integrations for each one of these services. So there are some pretty big logos, and we have a lot more case studies kind of coming out because this year has been very fast growth for us. But I think the vast majority of the customers, they start really feeling that problem. More than 50 employees.
Here, how does that work? How do people engage with you?
Yeah, you can. You can absolutely come to our site, sign up for free, upload some data, get some value from it pretty quickly. I would say, 20-30% of our customers probably just sign up and kind of, pay for it or just evaluate it for free and just kind of go on their own. But a lot of customers, we have a non-salesy sales process. Like product people don't like being sold to. They don't like the idea of having to buy a tool. They often don't have that big of a budget to pull from. So they're kind of all over the place on like, I don't even know what I'm doing. And they definitely don't want to hop onto a sales call where a guy's like showing them a deck and a demo and saying, okay, here's, the 5 slides you need to know and all this kind of stuff. So, we really try to make this as painless as possible for product teams to adopt the tool. So we do have onboarding calls. I'd say about 70% of our customers will hop on an onboarding call with us at some point, but it's not a sales call. It's an onboarding
Hmm.
call. It's like, what do you need? What kind of problems are going on? How can I help you? Like let's walk into the product. Let's show you what's going on. Like if you want to ask pricing questions, if you want to understand the cost and how this might scale, like we're here to help you think about that. And if you need help getting it adopted at your company, we're here to talk to anyone and kind of offer that. But we really don't feel the need to like go to a sale, product team and really like hard sell them or do like a, bake off competition for them and really kind of force them to do XYZ.
Got it. Well, I looked at some of the testimonials on your website, some awesome case studies and everything. So sounds like an amazing solution, and I'm really looking forward to watching the growth and the excitement around your solution.
Thank you. Appreciate
All
it.
right, awesome. Well, good having you today. And
Yeah, yeah. Talk to you soon.
okay, cool.